The ultimatum the morning started like any other Tuesday on Luna Base 7. Captain Elena Vasquez was reviewing defense protocols when the sensors screamed their first warning. She looked up from her coffee, steam still rising from the ceramic mug her daughter had made in art class 3 years ago. The mug would be the last normal thing she'd see for a very long time. Captain, we've got massive energy signatures approaching from the outer rim. Sergeant Williams called from the monitoring station. His voice carried that particular strain that came from seeing something that shouldn't exist. These readings? They're off the charts. Elena moved to the primary display, her boots echoing in the quiet command center. What she saw made her blood run cold. 17 massive vessels, each the size of a small city, were decelerating from faster-than-light travel just beyond Jupiter's orbit. Their hulls gleamed with an alien metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Get me Earth Command," she ordered, but static filled the communications array. Then came the voice, speaking perfect English with an accent that belonged to no human throat. "Attention, primitive species of the third planet. I am Admiral Zethkal of the Kethver Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our Dominion. You have 1 solar rotation to surrender completely. Resistance will result in extinction." The transmission cut to silence. Elena stared at the tactical display, showing the alien fleet spreading into attack formation. 17 ships against Earth's modest orbital defenses. The math was simple and terrifying. "Captain, they're jamming all frequencies to Earth," Communications Officer Park reported, her fingers dancing frantically across her console. "We can't warn anyone." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of her daughter Sarah, probably. Sitting in chemistry class right now, worrying about her upcoming exam instead of alien invasion fleets. When she opened them again, her expression had hardened into something carved from stone. "Then we make our own warning," she said quietly. The Luna Base 7 defense platforms were designed to handle asteroid impacts and the occasional space pirate. Against alien warships, they were like throwing pebbles at giants. But Elena ordered the attack anyway. The nuclear missiles streaked toward the alien fleet, their engines burning bright against the black of space that the aliens didn't even bother with point defense. A single pulse of energy from the lead ship vaporized all 16 missiles simultaneously. Then they demonstrated why the Kethver Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past century. Elena watched in horror as 3 alien vessels descended toward Earth. Blue fire erupted from their weapons, and where it touched, cities died. London vanished in a pillar of superheated plasma. Tokyo was there one moment, gone the next. Sydney's harbor boiled away to nothing. 200 million people died in the first hour. The Luna Base shook as the alien fleet turned its attention to the outer defenses. One by one, the orbital stations went dark. Mars colonies stopped transmitting. The asteroid mining platforms simply ceased to exist. "Captain, they're targeting us," Williams reported, his voice barely a whisper. Elena looked around the command center at her remaining crew. 12 people, the last witnesses to humanity's darkest hour. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the sleek alien destroyer approaching, its weapons charging with an ominous blue glow. "Send a message on all frequencies," she ordered. "Maximum power." "Captain, they'll triangulate our position," Park protested. "They already know where we are," Elena replied, moving to the communications console. She activated the emergency broadcast system, the one designed to reach every human settlement from Earth to the outer colonies. The alien weapons fired. The base shuddered, atmosphere venting through a dozen hull breaches. Emergency lights bathed everything in hellish red. Elena felt the artificial gravity failing, felt her feet leave the deck, but she kept talking into the microphone. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez. commanding officer of Luna Base 7, to any humans still alive out there. The aliens think they've won. They think we're beaten. She coughed, tasting blood. They're wrong. The ceiling above her collapsed, crushing Williams beneath a ton of twisted metal. Park screamed as explosive decompression claimed her. Elena held tight to the communications console, her voice never wavering. "You want war?" she said directly. To the alien fleet commander, knowing he was listening. Then prepare to be erased. She hit the emergency activation switch with her last conscious thought. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, something that had been sleeping for 30 years began to wake up. Dr. Marcus. Chun had designed Project Nemesis in the paranoid years, following humanity's first detection of potentially hostile alien signals. While politicians debated and diplomats prepared for peaceful contact, Chun and a select few had prepared for the worst. Project Nemesis wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous. It was humanity's memory made manifest. Every tactical innovation, every strategic insight, every bloody lesson learned from 10,000 years of warfare, all compressed into a quantum consciousness that could think at the speed of light. The activation signal from Luna Base 7 traveled through hardened fiber optic cables, through quantum entanglement communicators, through emergency networks that the aliens didn't even know existed. In hidden bunkers across Earth and beyond, automated systems came online. Weapons that had been waiting in darkness for decades began to charge. Admiral Zeethkal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive world burn. The third planet's military had been pathetic, barely worthy of the name. A few orbital platforms, some chemical rockets, nuclear warheads that his shields could absorb without strain. The conquest would be complete within days. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," his communications officer reported. "Another surrender offer?" Zeethkal asked dismissively. "No, sir. It's single quotes S. different." The transmission appeared on the main screen. A human, female in military uniform, her face streaked with blood, but her eyes burning with an intensity that made even the hardened Kethver warriors step back. "My name is Elena Vasquez," she said, and somehow her voice carried the weight of an entire species' fury. "You came to our world thinking we were weak. You killed our children thinking we would surrender. You were wrong about both." Zeethkal leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. This human's voice held no fear, no desperation, only promise. "We've been watching the galaxy for a long time," Elena continued. "We know about the 47 worlds you've conquered. We know about the trillions you've enslaved. We know exactly what you are." Her smile was sharp enough to cut space itself. "And we've been preparing." The transmission cut out, replaced by tactical displays showing energy signatures erupting across the human world. But these weren't the crude nuclear weapons from before. These signatures were clean, precise, and impossibly powerful. From hidden bunkers came humanity's true arsenal. Particle beam weapons that could slice through Kethver armor like tissue paper. Gravitational pulse generators that could crush a battleship into a marble-sized sphere. Quantum disruptors that could unravel matter at the subatomic level. But the real weapon was the mind coordinating it all. Project Nemesis had studied every piece of intelligence humanity had gathered about the Kethver Empire. It knew their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. And it had been planning this moment for 3 decades. The first salvo caught. Zeethkal's fleet completely off guard. Beams of coherent energy lanced up from the planet's surface, targeting specific weak points in the alien ship's hulls. 3 destroyers died instantly, their reactors breaching in spectacular explosions that lit up the dark side of Earth. "Impossible," Zeethkal roared. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." His tactical officer's mandibles clicked frantically. "Admiral, these weapons, They're not in any of our intelligence reports. It's as if they were specifically designed to counter our defenses. That's because they were. Dr. Chan's team had spent years analyzing wreckage from the few Kethver scout ships that had been destroyed by other species. They had mapped every circuit, every alloy, every design philosophy. They had prepared humanity, not just to fight the Kethver, but to annihilate them. The second wave of attacks came from space itself. Automated weapons platforms that had been drifting in the asteroid belt for decades suddenly came alive, their stealth systems dropping, to reveal massive railgun batteries. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light, speed hammered into the alien fleet from 6 different vectors simultaneously. Zethkal watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible armada was torn apart by weapons that shouldn't exist, coordinated by intelligence that operated faster than thought itself. This wasn't a battle anymore. This was an execution. All ships retreat to the outer system, he commanded. We need to regroup. An admiral, his sensor operator interrupted, terror making his translator unit stutter. The humans ... They're not just defending anymore. They're hunting us. The reckoning from the depths of space came humanity's hidden fleet. Ships that had been built in secret asteroid facilities, powered by fusion reactors that burned cleaner and hotter than anything in the Kethver arsenal. These weren't the crude vessels the aliens had expected to face. These were predators, sleek and deadly, emerging from the black between worlds like sharks scenting blood. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, her body more machine than flesh now after the Luna Base 7 incident. The cybernetic implants weren't just life support. They were direct neural links to Project Nemesis itself. She could feel the artificial intelligence's vast consciousness touching hers, could see the tactical situation playing out across 100 different fronts simultaneously. "Nemesis, report," she said aloud, though the communication was unnecessary. The AI responded directly to her thoughts. 7 enemy vessels destroyed. Admiral Zethkal's flagship attempting to retreat beyond Jupiter's orbit. Estimated enemy force reduction, 41%. Human casualties from initial bombardment, 207 million confirmed dead. Acceptable losses within parameters. Elena's jaw tightened. Acceptable losses. The AI had calculated that humanity could survive the initial attack and still maintain enough industrial capacity for the counteroffensive. It had been right, but the cost. The cost was written in the ashes of cities and the silence where billions of voices had once laughed and cried and dreamed. "Begin Phase 2, she commanded. Across the solar system, the real hunt began. The Kethver ships found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. When they tried to use their superior speed to escape, human gravity mines activated, creating space-time distortions that dragged the alien vessels back into weapons range. When they attempted to form defensive formations, swarms of autonomous fighters appeared from nowhere, exploiting gaps in their point defense systems with surgical precision. Admiral Zethkal had conquered 47 worlds. He had faced desperate resistance, clever tactics, even suicidal bravery. But he had never encountered anything like this. The humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting with the cold, calculated fury of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of war against its own kind. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his science officer. Their technology was primitive. Their society was fragmented. The Kethver scientist's translation device conveyed uncertainty. "Admiral, I believe they allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see. While we observed their public communications, their entertainment media, their apparent disunity, they were simultaneously developing capabilities that rival our own." On the tactical display, another Kethver cruiser winked out of existence, as a human dreadnought's main gun punched through its shields and hull with a single shot. The weapon's energy signature was completely unknown, based on principles that Kethver science had never encountered. Elena watched the slaughter with grim satisfaction. 30 years of preparation were paying off. Humanity had learned from every conflict in its history, had studied every possible scenario, had prepared for the day when the galaxy's wolves would come calling. They had appeared weak because weakness was an excellent camouflage for strength. Nemesis, open a channel to the surviving enemy vessels, she ordered. The AI complied, hijacking the Kethfor communication systems with casual ease. Elena's image appeared on alien bridges throughout the fleeing fleet, her cybernetic implants gleaming in the harsh light of emergency systems. Admiral Zethkal, she said, her voice carrying across the void. You wanted to add humanity to your list of conquered species. Instead, you've made us your final entry. The alien commander's response came immediately, his translator rendering his fury into perfect English. You cannot defeat the entire empire. We number in the trillions. Our fleets could darken your skies. Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. Then you should have brought more ships. A battle had spread beyond Earth's solar system now. Human vessels, faster and more maneuverable than anything the Kethvar had faced, were pursuing the retreating aliens into deep space. But these weren't random attacks. Project Nemesis had calculated the optimal strategy for maximum psychological impact. Every Kethver ship that tried to flee found itself hunted by vessels that seemed to know exactly where they were going. Communication. Relays that the Empire had used for centuries suddenly went silent, cut by human infiltration units that had been positioning themselves for decades. Supply convoys vanished without trace, their crews finding only empty space where safe passage had once been guaranteed. Dr. Marcus Chun, now elderly and confined to a wheelchair, watched the tactical displays from his command bunker beneath. Cheyenne Mountain. His life's work was finally bearing fruit. Nemesis wasn't just fighting the Kethver. It was systematically dismantling their ability to function as a coherent military force. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 different Kethvar commanders. They're requesting terms. Chun shook his head. No terms. They chose extinction when they chose to attack civilians. Nemesis, you know what to do. The AI's response resonated through quantum channels across human space. Every ship, every weapon platform, every hidden installation received the same message. No survivors. No prisoners. No mercy. Elena stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching as the last major Kethver battleship was torn apart by coordinated fire from a dozen human vessels. The alien crew's distress signals cut short as their ship's reactor breached, adding another brief star to the constellation of death that marked the Empire's end. But the real message wasn't for the dying aliens. It was for the galaxy beyond. Nemesis, prepare the broadcast array, Elena commanded. Across known space, every communication network, every relay station, every colonial transmission system suddenly carried the same signal. Elena's face appeared on countless screens, addressing species that had never heard of humanity before. My name is Elena Vasquez of the Human Federation, she began, her voice carrying the authority of a species that had just proven itself in the crucible of total war. Today, the Kethver Empire learned what happens when you threaten our children. Their 47 conquered worlds are now free. Their fleets are debris. Their empire is ended. She paused, letting the implications sink in across 1,000 worlds. But we are not conquerors. We are guardians. For too long, species like the Kethver have terrorized the galaxy, enslaving the weak and destroying the innocent. That ends. Now, humanity extends its protection to any world that seeks it. We offer our alliance to any species that values freedom over tyranny. The transmission continued, detailing humanity's terms for galactic citizenship, its offer of protection, its promise of retribution against any who would prey upon the innocent. It was a declaration of intent that would reshape galactic politics for millennia to come. On the bridge of his dying flagship, Admiral Zethkal watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across Keth for space, rebellions. On slave worlds, human fleets materializing in systems that should have been safe. Entire colonial governments surrendering rather than face the fury that had destroyed Earth's attackers. His final transmission was not to his own kind, but to the species that had defeated him so utterly. "How?" he asked simply. "How did you know we would come?" Elena's response carried the weight of human history, the memory of every war fought, every battle won or lost, every lesson learned in blood and suffering. "Because," she said, "we know what we would do in your place. We know what it means to be apex predators. The difference is, we chose to be something more." The alien admirals. Ship dissolved into plasma and scattered atoms, taking with it the last organized resistance of the Kethfor Empire. In the space of 72 hours, a galactic power that had endured for centuries had been reduced to isolated survivors fleeing into the dark between stars. Elena stood in the silence that followed victory, surrounded by the debris of 2 fleets and the ashes of 2 civilizations. Earth would rebuild. The dead would be mourned. The galaxy would remember what happened when someone tried to erase humanity from the stars. Behind her, Project Nemesis continued its eternal vigil, watching for new threats, calculating new strategies, preparing for the next time someone would test humanity's resolve. The galaxy had its guardian now, forged in fire and tempered by loss. And in the void between worlds, Admiral Zethkal's final warning echoed in the quantum static, a message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. Do not underestimate the humans. They are not what they appear to be. Humanity had given the galaxy its answer to the question that had haunted civilized space for eons. What happens when the innocent finally fight back? The answer was extinction for the guilty and freedom for everyone else.